Mario Kart. Who hasn't played this series? Starting all the way back on the Super Nintendo, there are 8 mainline titles along with a few spin-offs. Today, we'll be ranking every mainline entry. We'll be seeing how they hold up under a modern lens, going over the pros and cons of each game. With that out of the way, we have quite a few games to get through, so let's start from the beginning, going in order, starting with Super Mario Kart, released back in 1992 for, well, the Super Nintendo. This game really kicked off the kart racing genre, with a solid starting roster, well, outside of Donkey Kong Jr., where's the main man himself. There are 20 unique tracks, which is quite a lot for back then, especially when compared to other races on the SNES, like F-Zero, that only had 15. Each cup has 5 tracks instead of what would be the standard of just 4. Gameplay wise, it can be a little dated. Going back, I find most people who didn't grow up with this one end up struggling coming to terms with the drifting. It's hard to explain, but you do have to come to terms with it. You more or less have to know when to let go of the gas when going around tight corners. I've never really been a fan of the coins in this series. When you have 0 in this game, you spin out like crazy. CPU is also a straight up cheat in this one. Characters like Mario can just get stars whenever they want, since the game doesn't keep track of what items the computer players have.
What the hell is this?
As a result of this, you get moments that are straight up cheap that you can't defend against. You also have lives in this one. If you enter anywhere below 4, you'll lose a life and will eventually be given a game over. I will cut the game some respect though. Being the first game of its kind, they was most likely getting an idea of what they can get away with. A lot of the more negative parts of this game were most likely a technical limitation of the Super Nintendo. The sprites are nice though. I'm also a big fan of the music in this game. It has that distinct Super Nintendo-like sound quality to it. Overall, a great start to the series and will be the standard going forward, so I'm feeling a strong C tier here. It gets so much right as the start of literal pop culture, but as a racing game on the SNES, comparing it to the likes of F-Zero, there are some aspects I prefer in that title, mainly the tracks and the handling of the vehicles in that game. Anyway, moving on 4 years later with Mario Kart 64 was the follow-up to Super and was one of the premier party games on the Nintendo 64. Releasing in 1996, we still got 8 races, however this time Donkey Kong Jr. has been kicked for the main man himself. Yeah. Along with Koopa being changed with Wario, which I mean fair enough, he wasn't a thing back when Super came out, debuting just a few months later. Anyway, moving on, we are down from 20 courses to just 16, but these tracks are way better. They have much more visual diversity, being in actual 3D. The track design overall improves from this jump, with tracks being way less flat and having inclines. My only gripe is some tracks in particular, like Wario Stadium and Rainbow Road, feel like hallways at times, where you're just moving down a straight path. I'm a fan of the shortcuts here, granted not all are intended, but cutting down Wario Stadium for the first time as a kid felt like such a power move with that one exploit. Some other details, there's a lot more dynamic camera movements here when getting hit. I'm a huge fan of the text you get when getting hit, gives off that old comic book vibe. I also love the music here, in particular with the lap result music. This coupled with the camera movement feels very 90s, and I mean that in a good way. We now have up to 4 player support, so the chaos of Mario Kart really began with this one. Overall a great sequel to the original, whilst taking advantage of the Nintendo 64's hardware. I've heard some people prefer Diddy Kong Racing, but I'd never played that game. I will say the character models look better though, being in actual 3D. Anyway, I'm feeling a B tier here. Overall a solid sequel, but still seeking improvements. It would actually be quite the wait until the next Mario Kart release. Dropping around 5 years later in 2001, Mario Kart Super Circuit would be the next game in the series. We're back to the Mode 7 graphics of the Super Nintendo, which makes sense with how the Game Boy Advance was pretty much a handheld SNES. Anyway, in terms of character selection, we're sticking with the same picks as 64, no newcomers, unless you count the random option. Track wise, rather whopping 40 of them. Bear in mind, half of them are retro courses from Super, given how similar the two games are. Super Circuit gets a lot right though from that game. Racers no longer cheat with their own items. Tracks are much more dynamic with there being more jumps and speed panels. Gotta say, Rainbow Road in particular I love in this game. Just absolute chaos and it feels so unhinged. You just bounce everywhere, making for some insane shortcuts. Speedruns of this track are really fun to watch. Also a huge fan of the Paper Mario reference, had to mention that. There's also these turns the game tells you about. Not sure why these are here, feels like something a more realistic racing game would have. Maybe to give more visibility to players, since I can understand playing a game that uses Mode 7 like graphics can be a little confusing for newcomers with the depth perception. Also some complaints, the coins are back from Super, along with the life mechanic which is jarring. This can make matches more stressful than they need to be. If you was wondering, speedrun, I would say this is hands down the hardest Mario Kart to get the highest rank in each cup. There are so many factors that go into a rank, enough for its own video, so if you're looking for some challenge, this game has it, albeit with some frustrations. I'll be honest, I'm not sure where to rank this one. A lot has been improved on Super, especially with the vehicle handling, but I wouldn't put it in the same rank as 64, so high C tier it is. Thankfully, the wait for the next installment wouldn't be long. Mario Kart Double Dash, one of the first games I ever played as a kid, and a great entry to start with. Nostalgia aside, this game was a huge step up from previous entries. Dropping in 2003, this game gave us 2 characters per car, a way bigger roster, and much more dynamic tracks and modes. There are 20 playable characters with 4 unlockables. For the first time you can choose your vehicle, no pipe frame only cars from previous games. The characters you pick actually are outside of weight class this time. They each have their own unique items they can get, which adds more strategy to the game. Unless you want to cheat and pick Peely or King Boo, who can get all of them. I love the tracks in this one, so many great ones come to mind. The amount of personality in this game with everything having a face or the different victory animations really makes this the most charming game in the series. Everything is so well animated this time around, no more stiff driving animations of old. Take for instance this unique death animation in Dry Dry Desert with the screen transition and enemy that only shows up here. Sure, it's all small window dressing, but that along with the sound effects really sets this one apart for me. Rainbow Road is also another great track here, hope it gets a remake one day. The biggest issue this game has, at least for me, is whenever I introduce this to people who haven't grown up with it, they hate how the vehicles handle, once again like previous games, saying how they are too slippery. It takes some getting used to, but I can see the flaw in this from seeing other people play. I also have fond memories with the 2-player mode of this game. You could have one person drive whilst the other is throwing items, which is really fun and a unique example of co-op, which will probably be the only time we'll see a co-op mode in this series. Overall, an absolutely solid follow-up. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick this in A tier.
Nice.
Just 2 years later we would see Mario Kart DS released in 2005. This would be the first game to really standardize the formula. We're down to 12 playable characters, but now we have 32 courses, the standard from this point. 16 Nitro tracks being all new and 16 retro tracks being tracks taken from previous games in the series. I'm gonna be honest, playing this game again for this video, I can't put my finger on it, but the vehicle's handling felt off. I remember snaking like it was no one's business as a kid, but this time around it all felt a tad slippery playing it today. Nowhere near as bad as previous games, but still something worth bringing up. I like how the bottom screen has the map display with it showing everyone's items, which is a really cool use of it. It can help a lot with the infamous new item, the blooper, which inks the top screen. There's also the new and exclusive mission mode. These are great small bite-sized missions you can play whilst on the go. There are actual boss fights here. I'm certainly not the only one to bring this up, but they should really bring this back. The mission mode is definitely the best reason to go back and play this game today. DS download play was a blast. If you grew up with this game, you definitely remember playing as Shy Guy at some point. It's kinda crazy looking back how you only needed one cartridge to play with 7 others using DS download play. So where is it going? This might be a hot take, but onto the lenses today, I'm gonna give it a high B tier. Sure, this game destroys the rest in terms of content alone, but when it comes to replaying the older games, I never find myself going back to it. Still one of the best DS titles at the time, and this, along with Mario Kart DS, has some amazing memories for me with friends and family.
Yahoo! Come on! Oh yeah! Hey!
Ooh, now here we go. I remember seeing ads on TV for this one. Mario Kart Wii. I remember playing this at so many people's houses, and getting it for my 9th birthday is a very vivid memory I have. I remember being so hyped for this one back in 2008 when this game dropped. Anyway, let's get into it. We got 24 playable characters, some Double Dash reps got cut, but hey, we got Funky Kong and Rosalina. There are now 12 races during a race, opposed to just 8 in previous games. Bikes are this game's new thing, allowing you to wheelie on straightaways to gain speed. New items, some of the best tracks in the series, shout out to Toad's Factory, a favourite of mine. The legacy of this game is still felt today. It was by far the best selling game until Mario Kart 8 came along. This is like the Smash Melee of Mario Kart when it comes to competitive communities. People still play this now, which speaks volumes of its quality. This was also the first game where the handling of the vehicles felt really right. They got rid of snaking, but no longer does it feel like butter in a frying pan when it comes to handling the vehicles. There's also a complaint I've seen a lot of people bring up when talking about this game today. There's that one famous clip of this game, you all know the one with the item spam on the bridge. Going back to Mario Kart Wii today, I was expecting to be met with tons of these moments, which critics would have you believe happens all the time. I haven't touched this game in well over a decade, but I noticed none of that. The items felt on average with other games. I guess some of it is RNG, but I feel like this critique is blown way out of proportion. Anyway, this is gonna be tough. Higher or lower than Double Dash? This game does so much well, and critically I can see it being the better game, but which one has playable Peter? A tier. The year is 2011, the 3DS is the shiny new console, and the new Mario Kart has released. Mario Kart 7. Fun fact, Nintendo was actually busy when this game was in development, so a lot of it was handled by Retro Studios, who were the team responsible for Metroid Prime and the modern Donkey Kong games. This one gets too much hate in my opinion. I remember really enjoying it back in the day. Sure, the roster is a little funky, a B should never be a racer, but the tracks and kart customization are a good time. We're back down to 8 racers, no bikes, but we now have underwater and air gliding sections of new and old tracks. Also, I'm a huge fan of the first person mode in this game. Sure, it is a tad gimmicky to showcase the 3D of the 3DS, but the camera perspective has a certain vibe to it, seeing a slightly different point of view of the angle of the racer. It also uses gyro controls, which is pretty cool. The graphics are also a big improvement from the DS, looking more like a console game. Also, I have to mention the Street Pass feature of this game. Genius ruler, this game came out slightly before the internet was in most houses, so if you interacted with someone outside with your 3DS, the game will download their ghost data, which is really cool. I remember collecting them back in the day. Most people bring up what this game isn't, but standing back and seeing it for what it is, I really can't find anything wrong with it fundamentally. Gonna give this a low A tier. Well, here we are, modern day, or 2014. I'll quickly gloss over vanilla Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. The battle mode was awful and the roster was whack, but flame hopping was kinda cool though. Anyway, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe released in 2017, the game that refuses to die. Being the latest entry for 10 years, yes it has been that long, it is practically 2 games in one. There are 48 characters counting DLC, and 96 tracks. This really is the ultimate Mario Kart game. There really isn't much new I can say. This is the best selling game, so if you're watching this video there's an extremely likely chance you've already played this. The big new gimmick is anti-gravity, allowing courses to twist and for you to drive upside down. It's hard to notice during gameplay, but it really does add a lot to the track designs. My favourite new addition this game adds is 200cc. This feels like the biggest shake-up in the series. What people thought was an April Fool's joke, a free update added 200cc to every track. Braking is now mandatory and the game goes by so fast you can outrun certain items. 12 racers are back, the booster cores brought back much needed veterans like Diddy Kong and Peter. The online mode is also a blast if you can get over the strange obsession with the meta some players have. This game really doesn't even have to be ranked, it's clearly S tier. Easily the gold standard. My only complaint is I'm not a huge fan of how the double items were added in Deluxe. Also, my brain is on autopilot a lot with this game. It's no fault of the game itself, just the result of it being around for so long is the latest entry in the series. People are so ready for the next release after 10 years of this game. I'm surprised how good it still looks for a 10-year-old game though. So that's my list. Yeah, definitely not forgetting any. Okay fine, Mario Kart Tour. A game released on mobile devices back in 2019, and it's awful. The controls, the live service model, and the gacha mechanics. I mean, look how much it costed for Diddy Kong in this game. The only praise I would give it is the roster. Poochie and King Bob-omb I really wish for in a mainline game. The costumes are also really nice, just a shame it's locked behind this game. My only hope is that in the real Mario Kart 9 we'll see them. So that is my list. We have Tour at the bottom, followed by Super, Super Circuit, 64, DS, 7, Wii, Double Dash, and 8, or 8 Deluxe at the very top. Thanks for watching this video. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Please let me know how you would rank these games. Do you have a favourite racer? I'm curious. Thanks for watching and have a nice rest of your day.